Hello, and welcome to Around the Political World with John Rothman. I am your host, John Rothman. If you're a fan of the show, make sure to hit the follow button on the top right of Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening at this very moment. When you hit follow, leave a review or share an episode with a friend. It helps other people discover the show, keeps us going. As I like to point out each and every day, it expands our base. Each morning when I wake up, as I have told you over the last several days, I am more and more distressed by what I read about what is happening with the American presidency. I just finished teaching a course at the Fromm Institute at the University of San Francisco dealing with the question of the American presidency. Well, let me give you some examples of things that, when I woke up this morning, really concerned me. And I have to tell you, I was sorry my course ended because I was able to really explore things in detail. But now I have 10 minutes each day to talk with you about the things that really rile me. And when I say rile me, it is because I believe in the American system and because I believe profoundly that who is president of the United States matters. Let's begin with Chief Justice John Roberts. The Chief Justice delivered a stunning rebuke to Donald Trump. Why? Because Donald Trump has judges with whom he disagrees, and he believes they're terrible judges. They're Democratic judges. They're far-left judges. And his suggestion is, let's impeach them. Well, John Roberts responded without mentioning Donald Trump's name, saying, no, that's not the way it works. What happens is you file an appeal, and it goes up the line, and although John Roberts didn't say it this way, ultimately it all ends up in the Supreme Court. If you go back and you look at what I have suggested to you over the last several months in dealing with these court cases, that's exactly what's going to happen. Ultimately, the Supreme Court is going to have to make some fundamental decisions about the powers of the president, and John Roberts is going to be central. After all, when you are the Chief Justice, it is the court, whether it was the Warren Court or the Burger Court or the Rehnquist Court, now it is the John Roberts Court. And the question becomes, how will the court respond? And if John Roberts' comments about Donald Trump are any indication, he's got a problem. Why? Because if Amy Coney Barrett votes with Roberts and the other liberals on the court, there are three of them, Donald Trump has a problem because he won't pass test. Then the question becomes, will he defy the Supreme Court? Now, he says he doesn't defy courts, but in fact, we know he does. And we know he has said he would. And we know that if push comes to shove, and there is a confrontation between the Supreme Court and the president, his key aides are saying, we don't care what the court does. Now, I want you to stop and I want you to think for a moment. What if Richard Nixon had said that in 1974? The simple truth is what the Supreme Court says matters. Harry Truman learned that when the Supreme Court ruled against him in the steel crisis. We have seen presidents who have disagreed with courts but who have complied, including my old boss, Richard Nixon, who did not agree in the United States versus Richard Nixon, but complied. But let's go a step further on this president. Ultimately, in the states, the courts will make the final determination. But what about foreign policy? Just yesterday, Donald Trump had a long conversation with President Putin, and today he will be talking with President Zelensky. And Donald Trump, who said prior to his election that he could solve the problem within 24 hours. Of course, he says now he was being sarcastic. But the simple truth is, Vladimir Putin violated any sense that he would obey any kind of ceasefire with the Ukrainians. And of course, his demand that the West stop supplying Ukraine with weapons and that they stop supplying intelligence to Ukraine is nuts. And what does that mean? It means that Donald Trump, who assured people he could end a war, well, he's proving to be as impotent, and I would suggest to you, as incompetent as many of us thought. There is no doubt that Vladimir Putin seems to have something with Donald Trump that is unique, but it doesn't solve the problem. Right after the White House put out optimistic statements, Russia was attacking Ukraine just yesterday. And let's take it a step further. The Federal Trade Commission has a balance of members. And although there's so much going on that most people didn't notice, President Trump yesterday fired 2 members of the FTC who happen to be Democrats. What we are seeing, whether it is in relation to foreign policy or domestic policy, is a president of the United States who I would suggest to you is out for retribution and revenge, but more than that, is trying to establish that the president is the dominant voice in American government. Not only is he the dominant voice in Donald Trump's point of view, he is also the determining voice. Well, we know from studying civics that that is not necessarily true. Yesterday, I alluded to the fact that Donald Trump has now castrated the Voice of America, Radio Free Europe, and all of those radio agencies which have done so much to inject America into the world and to give the truth to the world. Donald Trump calls that experience propaganda. I don't think Donald Trump gets it. And may I say, I want him to understand. The Voice of America has been critical in the war to win minds and hearts in the world. But you can go down the list. I've only given you a few examples. When you have this situation, well, and one last point, that has to do with DEI. Do you know that when you go to the website of the Pentagon, the term Enola Gay is no longer there? You know the Enola Gay that was named for the mother of the pilot who dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima. Why was the name changed? Because some official said DEI applied because the word gay was used. It is this kind of incompetent, and I must say, horrific action by the Donald Trump administration that leads me to believe we are in danger. Our democracy is in danger, under assault. And may I conclude by saying, the proof is in the pudding. When the Chief Justice of the United States stands up and says that you cannot call for the impeachment of a judge, that to me says it all. I have said in the past, and I will say it again, I believe in the American system. But most important of all, I believe that when push comes to shove, the majority of the Supreme Court will do the right thing. Then the question will be, will Donald Trump obey the law? Good question. And we'll find out, I have a feeling, in the days ahead. Thanks for tuning into another episode of Around the Political World with John Rothman. Make sure to follow along and let me know your thoughts on the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts and sharing an episode with a friend or colleague so we can continue to grow and expand, which, of course, is our goal. I want to urge you to contact me with your comments. You can do it on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and indeed, you can email me directly. And I want to say a special word of thanks to Gogo Zoger. She produces this podcast. And to all of you, I'll be back tomorrow with another episode of Around the Political World with John Rothman. I can't wait. See you then.